11 a.m. here in Seoul. I'm Osuyang at the Arirang News Center. We're breaking into our regular programming to bring you a live briefing from the South Korean health authorities on the coronavirus outbreak here in the nation. In just a few moments, we'll cut into the briefing at the Sejong Government Complex with simultaneous interpretation available for you in English. We're going to go into the briefing room where Yoon Tae-oh, Director General of Public Health Policy, will be sharing the latest figures and updates on the COVID-19 situation in the country. So especially with the sudden spurts of infection that we've been seeing in the capital of Seoul, the Director General will be telling us about the additional number of infection cases that have popped up over the past 24 hours, and he will also tell us about the latest death toll. And it looks like he's just taken to the podium, and it looks like the briefing is just about to begin.
Let us now begin our regular briefing for July 13th, Monday. As of today midnight, we have 19 new local infections, and this is a drop to the teens in a while. And we also have seen new imported cases from countries in Asia, and they have been witnessed at the airport quarantine and entries of points of entry. And we believe that we have a good control of these imported cases so far. Up until now, we have a total confirmed patients standing at 13,479. And a total of 986 people are in quarantine undergoing treatment. The death toll remains unchanged at 289. This morning, the KCC held a meeting presided over by Health Minister Bang Neung-woo, and we discussed issues about the use of the live quarantine jobs, as well as the quarantine measures, especially preparing us for the summer holidays, as well as the increase in the imported cases. And he also noted that the recent cluster infections in Daejeon and Gwangju cities all spurred from the door-to-door sales businesses. And he also asked the members of the public to become quarantine inspectors and proactively monitor and report these cases to the Safety E-report. And he also said during the summer holidays that many of the tourist destinations, when they are overly crowded and congested, we have higher risks of infection. So he asked the public to utilize the months of September and October for summer holidays as well. Here are some updates on the imported cases and our countermeasures as well. And starting from the April 13th, as we have intensified our inspection for the visas, it has decreased slightly. However, they also jumped starting from May. And on average, we have about 4,000 people coming in to the country. And about half of them were the Korean nationals, and about 1,800 of them are foreign nationals, and this is a slight surge of 28% from the previous week. And we have seen an increase of the confirmed cases, especially among some sailors from some ships that have embarked in the ports of Korea. We are seeing a sudden increase in the number of imported cases. However, all of these cases are also put on mandatory quarantine for 2 weeks at their residence or at a temporary shelter place. Therefore, we have a very low risk, near zero risk of spreading this infection throughout the community. Nevertheless, there is an increase of the burden for the medical capacity as we need to treat these patients. And we also have decreased the passenger flight capacity to about 60% of the normal, and we will also intensify our quarantine measures going forward. And starting from today, all of the foreigners entering Korea that are coming in from high-risk countries that have been categorized by our government, they need to submit a certificate that proves that they have tested negative in the PCR test conducted within the past 48 hours. And all of the sailors they need to also go on a mandatory 14-day of quarantine, and we will further curb the possible spread of their virus through the community. And we also have shelter places that have been temporarily set up for these foreign entrants. And we have opened a new place at the Seoul city, and we have a total of 8 facilities nationwide with about 3,000 rooms available for foreign entrants. And the central government will continue to exert efforts to monitor this situation, and we will regularly update our category and list of countries with high risks of infection. And next is about the utilization of the live quarantine jobs. And we had the third supplementary budget being passed at the National Assembly, and we have possibly secured funds for these live quarantine jobs. And in order to utilize them, we will be utilizing them in the areas of quarantine and on-site quarantine for multi-use facilities and finding out the blind spots. And there has been an increase of the level of fatigue among the public servants, as for the prolonged COVID-19 battle has gave them a lot of burden and stress. And we believe that these budgets can be utilized to create about 73,000 more jobs at these areas, and they will be utilized by the local governments, and they will be carrying out live quarantine measures. And the Seoul city is also exerting its utmost efforts to utilize and continue the cultural activities for the public despite the COVID-19, and they are also carrying out special recruitment for these live quarantine jobs, especially for the disinfection areas. And the Daejeon city as well will also continue to hire more people in the area of live quarantine jobs who will be inspecting and disinfecting multi-use facilities like parks and public restrooms. And creating these live quarantine jobs, which are also aimed at designed to decrease the amount of blind spots, will also be very helpful for the community as a whole. And next is our continued efforts to intensify quarantine for the summer beaches. And in preparing for our summer beaches, we have been centering around the Ministry of Oceans. We have been exerting our full efforts to make a special TF team to inspect the summer holidays, especially for the beaches nationwide. And we have made sure that the visitors can utilize the social distancing measures. And we have also publicized some of the small beaches nationwide that are less used by our public. And we also introduced to the public many of other alternatives, including the streams as well as water parks as well. And we also have identified detailed quarantine measures for each of these tourist destinations. And we have also trained our employees who are working at these sites to ensure a safe environment for all. And to this end, Gangwon-do province is also carrying out its own tailored quarantine measures, and especially marking the summer holidays, it has devised its own plans to intensify and beef up quarantine. And it will continue to inspect the quarantine methods at the beaches. And as for 8 of its major large beaches, it has made it mandatory to make online reservations for the parasols. And it will also intensify its administrative order for a ban on the alcohol drinking as well and food consumption. And also, it will carry out Sokcho Beach as a night to be enjoyed during the night, and they are also exerting efforts to disperse the number of visitors across the beaches that they have in the region. And as for these shower rooms, they will be limiting the facility and capacity to about half of the normal use, and they will regularly disinfect and ventilate the place. And the Gangwon City also has introduced its new measures of having a wristband for the visitors, and it has mobilized 163 employees to watch and monitor and inspect the social distancing measures put in place by the visitors, and they will also utilize drones as well. And we also ask the members of the public to utilize these quarantine measures going forward during the summer holidays. And aside from these measures as well, the central government will make sure that we will be fully equipped and fully prepared for a safe environment during the summer holidays. And as for these public servants, we have extended the periods of summer holidays so that we will have an even dispersion of the people going on leave. And as for private sectors, private companies with over 100 employees, we have instructed them to utilize the other months that have less visitors to be utilized as summer holidays as well. And we have also disclosed our measures for our screening clinics, especially preparing for a major big typhoon during the summer. And we also have provided special safety guidelines for these screening clinics as well, and we will make sure that the country stays safe. And during the Sunday, we have many churches and worshippers who have participated in our quarantine measures, and we would like to thank you once again. And about 3,000 churches nationwide have registered for the QR code registry system, and we believe that if you continue on with the compliance with such measures, we believe that we will have a decrease in the number of cluster infections, and we will be able to ease such gathering ban as well. We ask for your support going forward. And the government has identified some of the patients who have been breaching the self-quarantine measures, and about 600 of the people have been identified as breaches of these measures, and about 180 people have been subject to wear the safe wristbands. And in accordance to the Special Act on Infectious Diseases, we have also inspected about 1,000 people, and about 10 of them have been arrested as well. And we also have mandated the wearing of face masks at public transportations, and there were about 143 people who have been breached, and we have done the investigation, and dozens of them also have been accused and investigated as well by the police. And we will also continue to monitor these situations going forward, and we are seeing an increase in the number of self-quarantine people on self-quarantine as we have an increased number of foreign entrants. And please comply strictly with the government quarantine as well, and please make sure that we accept this new norm, especially after the COVID-19 era. We understand that it is very difficult and challenging to make these new norms. However, please remember that these are the basic measures to prevent yourself. Thank you very much.
We just had a live briefing from the South Korean Health Authority's Director General Yoon Tae-ho telling us that there were 62 additional infection cases of COVID-19 over the last 24 hours, bringing the accumulated total to 13,479. There were no new deaths confirmed, meaning that the death toll stands firm at 289. That wraps up our coverage of this morning's briefing. Thank you for staying with us, and we'll be back shortly with our regular midday newscast. Bye for now.